Welcome back to The Fan. Lori Rubinson here with you. 877-337-6666. And my producer, Manny, calling up a gentleman right now. His name is Jeff Pilgrim. And if you are a Giants fan, I hope you are familiar with his videos on YouTube. He goes by on Twitter El Jefé, and is the creator of the El Jefé videos on YouTube. And what is I don't know if I won't do them justice, but basically all season long, Jeff creates videos before, after Giants games. And for much of this, I think I first saw Jeff's videos last year, which was quite a bleak season for Giants fans. And so they were the one bright spot in an otherwise bleak season. And then this year, remarkably, suddenly, the Giants, of course, a year we didn't expect. And but the El Jefé videos have become a staple, I think, for a lot of Giants fans. And I thought it would be fun. There's obviously a lot of topics going on right now. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Brian Daboll, Coach of the Year. We're about to hit the NFL Combine. So I thought if you're a Giants fan, do yourself a favor. You should be watching these videos. Also, he co-created a podcast. So I thought it would be fun to give him a little bit of a shout out and some airtime. Welcome to the program, Jeff Pilgrim.
Lori, thank you so much for having me. Nice to finally talk to you.
So first, for people who have not watched your videos, let's start there. I didn't do them justice, but describe for people, you basically play about 4 different characters, and and it's, I don't know, it's in your backyard, and I'm not doing them justice, but how would you describe this project, labor of love that you do with the El Jefé videos?
Well, they are ridiculous videos. I play 4 different main characters, and they all have different points of view on the Giants, and it can be about anything, about players, about the recent game, the upcoming game.
Dave Gettleman in the past.
Dave Gettleman, Joe Judge. I mean, I played Joe Judge for a while last year.
With the hoodie and the sweatshirt all rolled up. I remember those.
Of course, the 3-level sleeves.
Right.
That was Joe Judge's thing. It would have been cool if he was a good coach, but obviously it was just something that I could make fun of. But basically, we sit in the backyard, and I film it so that, I film one character at a time, and then the way I edit it, it looks like everybody's talking to each other. And I try to cover, the 4 corners of the Giants fan base. And if you're on Giants Twitter, and you see it, it's a madhouse out there. And so at first I created it, I had the idea for a while, and then I was I made it just to see if I could actually make it happen and make it look real. And there was only 2 guys in the first video, but it got such a response that I was okay, I might be onto something here. So I just kept making them, and I've just had so much fun with them that I'll make them as long as people want me to. But it's sketch comedy, and it's science with, my stupid sense of humor mixed in there.
Yeah, but it's interesting you say that, is the corners of the, representing the Giants fan base, and from the most optimistic to the most snarky and negative, and then sort of everywhere in between. How and why? I found your videos last season. How long have you been doing this, and how and why did it start?
Yes, the beginning of last season, right before the season started, which was Joe Judge's final year. There's just so much tension on Giants Twitter and so much arguing and things like that. I'm I feel like I could break the tension here a little bit and let people know it's not that serious. It's supposed to be fun to be a fan of a team, not argue with strangers on the internet. So I tried to just create my own lane where I could shine a light on, and it wound up being kind of therapy for not only myself, but I think for some other people, because it was such a miserable season in 21 that it was my God, we need something to look forward to. And it kind of became that. And it is a labor of love. It's a lot of work, and I squeeze it into my full life just because I love doing it so much. So it's been a great time, and I didn't know that it's like totally pushed me out of my comfort zone too. Like I didn't know I could write comedy. I had ideas, or I thought I could. I've always loved comedy. I used to do a comedy podcast. So this forced me into a new realm that I didn't know I could do. So it's been really cool from that aspect too.
Yeah, I the words I used here in my notes when I was writing up some questions for you was coping device. Last year, I thought of it as a coping device for this lousy Giants team, and whether it was the coaching and the front office and all of that. And then this year, suddenly, so how do you capture into words? In the past, it was, I think we as Giants fans would look over the last decade, would look around the league and wonder, like, why can't we have nice things for this last decade? And then, so how do you capture how you feel about Giants head coach Brian Daboll?
He has been sent from the football gods to just save us, I think. I mean, how else? This guy has been everything we wanted the last coach to be, except this guy's actually a good coach. He's not just rah-rah, in the press conferences. He's a player's coach. He's phenomenal. He's super smart. He's an offensive mind. He's everything the Giants needed. And considering what the Giants had on paper, what they accomplished this year is incredible. So, in terms of making the videos, what's crazy is that there's still sections of the fan base that are miserable still, even though we just had the best season in a decade. So I will always have content because those people will always exist. So shout out to Giants Nation, by the way. I don't care what kind of fan you are. I love you because we're all in this together. And I'm probably like a sum of all those people. Like sometimes I tweet out something like, well, who said that? Which character said that? I'm like, I am a person. Like I've been a Giants fan my whole life. I'm not just that, whatever you see in those videos. So Daboll has been a godsend. He is the way he started the season, going for 2 in Tennessee, is the way he finished the season. Like in Minnesota, 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter on our side of the field, he's still going for it. Like he was consistent, he was afraid of nothing, and he's exactly what we needed. And bringing him and Joe Schoen together is awesome because they've worked together previously. We finally have a head coach and GM on the same page, so the arrow is pointing straight up for the Giants, even though there's some big decisions to be made.
So you mentioned Joe Schoen, and I was curious where you stand with Giants general manager Joe Schoen. I'm in the camp of thinking that he's been solid, but his best decision was bringing in that he's friends with Brian Daboll and brought him in as the head coach. It's not that I think Joe Schoen did a bad job. It's just that I'm in the jury's still out. I hope he will be a terrific general manager, but last year the rookie class, a lot of injuries, whatever, I'm not sure that there were moves necessarily in the draft that you look at, especially the first couple of picks, the first round draft picks were moves that you would have made, I would have made.
Yeah.
So I'm still, I liked obviously picking up Isaiah Hodgins off of the scrap heap, the Bills practice squad. That's a good move.
Yeah.
There were some good in-season moves. There was no salary cap. So I'm a little bit of like wait and see on Joe Schoen. I want to see what happens this offseason, another draft, all of that. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on GM Joe Schoen? Are you all in, or are you, let's see what happens?
Yeah, I think Daboll proved himself, and maybe it's easier for him to prove himself in just than a GM who didn't have any salary cap, like you said. And the first round draft pick's exactly right. That's who everyone would have picked in those spots. And, people looked at some of those draft picks and that's why they're kind of on the fence with Joe Schoen. And I mean, of course there are some Giants fans that are saying Joe Schoen ain't the guy. Here we go. Get him in part 2. And I'm like, oh, geez.
No, he didn't draft a running back with the first round draft pick. So I'm okay.
So I think he's going to need more time to prove himself. I think, like you said, Isaiah Hodgins, just off the streets, absolutely brilliant pickup. So I would like to see, this is now when he's really going to earn his money. What are you going to do with this quarterback who has been the most divisive, polarizing character for his Giants career. Is he underperforming because that's who he is, or because of his surroundings, which have been awful? So who is Daniel Jones? And I can't believe after 4 years we're still trying to figure that out, because if it was a consensus, there wouldn't be anybody arguing about it, right? And now and that's a huge decision for him to make. So I think I am on board. I think the fact that they're working together cohesively is great news for the Giants. I just think it'll take him a little bit longer to prove himself as you see these draft picks mature over time. Hopefully they don't all have ACL injuries again, and that would certainly help his draft.
If you could do something about the turf and the ACL injuries, that would be good. I'm with you. I want it to work, and I like the fact that they are united in thought, head coach and general manager. But I need to see more to say, yeah, he's definitely the long-term answer and the guy. But you brought up the quarterback, so let's go there. Talking, by the way, to Jeff Pilgrim, creator of the El Jefé videos, Giants videos on YouTube, as well as co-creator of New York Revival podcast. And so one of my other favorite things you do in terms of the videos, so you have your stories, sort of sitcoms, or whatever they are that you create in a few minutes every week. But then you also, each week, for fans who haven't seen this, you have what I would call your Damn It Daniel series of videos that you do before every game. And I don't know if you do before every game, but it feels that way. And they're essentially a pep talk from you to Daniel Jones. And I see it as you wanting him to be the best player he can be, but frustrated at times if he doesn't live up to that. And I've sensed in you, I would call it a kindred spirit. I would describe myself as a realistic Daniel Jones apologist, if that makes sense.
Sure does.
I was, but then again, I was a realistic Eli Manning apologist before that, where I see it and I see the limitations, I see the problems with Daniel Jones, but I also see, I see the physical skills, I see the off the charts intangibles and work ethic, and how much his teammates love and respect and admire this guy. And then, the owner admitting that they've basically done practically everything to break this player. Horrible offensive lines, Jason Garrett as his offensive coordinator, no offensive weapons, and so it's like the trifecta of bad offensive line, bad supporting cast, and bad coaching. And this year, finally, we get to see Daniel Jones with a good coaching, good scheme, good coaching. But no, I mean, talent-wise, that was what the miracle of what Brian Daboll was doing. It felt like unless you're playing the Texans, most weeks the Giants felt like the less talented roster out there. So here we are. He's a free agent, and I don't know. Damn it, Daniel. What are you worth? And how do you see this Daniel Jones contract situation playing out? How would you advise Joe Schoen?
Yeah, this is just the luck of the Giants, is we wait 3.5 years for this quarterback to finally look like somebody, and then he does right before payday. So that's just our luck that we have going for us. And now it's how do you evaluate a guy?
And by luck, you mean we had really poor coaching. I don't know if I would call that luck. I think that was a self-inflicted wound, but you could call it luck.
His 2 years with Joe Judge,
right,
and Jason Garrett, and Dave Gettleman. Like, can you imagine thinking that was a recipe for success in hindsight? But what chance was he given? I even go back to
Shermer. I even go back to, Daniel Jones' rookie year with a Pat Shermer may not have been a superb head coach, but as an offensive developer of talent, Daniel Jones, 12 starts, 24 touchdowns. I mean, I know he fumbled, but you saw the talent there in the rookie year. Then he went into the wasteland of the Joe Judge, Jason Garrett, swirl, and suddenly comes out cautious with Brian Daboll. And so would you, would you 100% sign him? Would you, if you can't get a deal and he's asking for $45 million, are you franchise tagging him? What are you doing?
I hope Joe Schoen has a number, it can't be a blank check for Daniel Jones because he just hasn't been so elite and mind-blowing that despite the situation he has rise above it all, you just can't write him that check, even though he's a great. Damn it, Daniel. Like, you showed some flashes. You did some good things, but you have not been so overwhelmingly amazing. It was such a rough start, then the 2 forgettable years, and now finally you have a good coach. And, I love the Daniel Jones that I saw in Minnesota and towards the end of the year. That's a dude you can win with. So, I would like him back, but it has to be at a fair price. And there's a lot of rumors going on what he's asking for. No, he's not worth $45 million. You can't do that. That all but eliminates Saquon and adding anything around him. So how are you going to build a team that he can finally say, okay, he has a line in front of him, he spins all around him? How can you possibly do that with no cap space once again? So, through the draft will take years, and then you're wasting all that money. So it's why would you pay him all that money if you're years away anyway? If you pay him, you start the clock on a Super Bowl window. Basically, you think you can win a Super Bowl with him. And so I always go back to Joe Schoen and Daves, as I like to call them, the crime-fighting duo. They landed their dream jobs a year ago, right? They got the head coach and the GM spot. That's what they've been working for their whole career.
Yep.
So why would they hitch their wagon to Daniel Jones if they didn't think they could win a Super Bowl with him?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if they decide that he is worth whatever that number is, then I'm going to really like hell for him. And I will do Damn It Daniel videos when he makes me upset. I will continue to do all those things.
Would you consider to your point, he just has a new agent. He's entitled to ask for whatever he wants, and with the leverage that he has. And if he wants $45 million and you and I say, all right, even with contracts going up and the salary cap going up, we're going to say, no, not worth $45 million on a longer-term deal with guaranteed money on that. So would you franchise him where now you're talking more I know it counts for the cap right away, but you're talking more like $32 million, make him show you another year before you commit to that $45 million type of deal?
Yeah, that's not the option that anybody's going to be excited about because you either want to move on or you want to know you have your guy. You don't want to be stuck or on a 1-year deal but that's kind of the only leverage Joe Schoen has.
Right.
You're asking for these crazy numbers. Guess what? I'll stick the tag on you and make you do it again. Can you stay healthy for a whole season again and get even better? Then obviously his number is going to be 45 and above. It's going to be, but at least you know what you're paying for.
Right.
Whereas as of right now, we're still trying to project. And after 4 years, you don't want to still be projecting. You want to have a really good idea of what you got at quarterback, and maybe they feel like they do. So there's a lot of rumors about what he's asking for, and who knows how true it is. They might come out with a deal that's beneficial for DJ and the team, and he gets to stay with Daboll, which I would imagine he wants to do. He's got to be the best coach he ever had.
Yep.
So franchise tag is definitely an option. It's kind of the only leverage that Joe Schoen has on him.
Yeah, I was stupidly, as we hit the, end of season, I had this voice in my head in Daniel Jones's ear thinking, come on, take a little less money and let them build a team around you. But, I'm not the person that has 300-pound men, slamming me down on the turf.
Oh, I would hope not, Lori. Yeah.
And fair. So therefore, no one's paying me $30 or $40 million to talk about sports on the radio. And so the challenging thing here, of course, is Daniel Jones not the only free agent. Team needs to build around him, and this is a roster that was under-talented, coached up, still a lot of holes. Really, it was year one of a rebuild, and God bless the coaching staff. They were able to get a rebuilding team to the postseason, to the playoffs. But what do you do then with Saquon Barkley? And where do you stand on the discounting the running back position. He's been injured, and you want to talk about somebody who's been hurt and then suddenly now is in a contract year and stays healthy and plays well. I mean, that's Saquon Barkley. What do you do with Barkley?
It's another brutal decision. It's like Joe Schoen. I know he's getting paid big bucks, but I'm kind of glad I'm not him in this scenario because there's so much weight on these two decisions here with these two guys, and you feel like they want to play together and they want to stay together. They seem to love each other on the field, and they're both such good guys in terms of representing your franchise. Like Saquon has done nothing wrong, and he's been here through the hardest years, battled back from injuries. He is the identity of the offense. He's our best weapon. You know, he accounted for over 1,600 yards from scrimmage last year. So how do you not bring him back if you're trying to win? So I see him as an elite weapon. I see him as top 3 at his position when healthy. So that's a guy you should bring back.
But when healthy,
of course.
So he's the one, you know, ideally I'd love to have a contract for Daniel Jones so I could franchise tag Saquon Barkley. If that's not available, and I know it would make him very unhappy, but what's a fair contract then for a running back? And it's not just year one. The problem is how many years guaranteed money. You know, what are you doing with a guy who, yes, had a terrific season, but has otherwise, you know, honestly, since his rookie year, has mostly been injured?
And if you look around, the NFL history tells you it doesn't work out when you give that running back the second contract.
Yep.
Right? Like you look at what Dallas is stuck with Zeke.
Yeah.
Carolina trades McCaffrey.
Yep.
So, like, it doesn't work just because these guys are so talented and so athletic and strong and fast coming out of college that if you have a good system and a good coach, which we do, you can find production. And so can you replace that production or get close to it? Maybe not replace it because Saquon is not a replaceable guy, but you can scheme and get production from there so that you don't have to pay one guy $10+ million. You can get a couple different running backs and get close and then have, like, I'd rather have an O-line. We haven't had an O-line in what seems like my entire adult life.
I agree, but doesn't that go back to against what you just said earlier, which is that it's not even $10 million. Giants offered, rumor is, 12.5 for 3 years, and he obviously, we don't know the guarantee on that, but he turned it down. So if he's wanting minimally, I think his people are probably asking for the 16 that McCaffrey's getting, but if he's wanting minimally $14 million and 4 years and I don't know, half of it's guaranteed or whatever, are you making that deal? Or to your point, would you rather invest in the offensive line and put together some solid running backs and invest in wide receiver, tight end, offensive line?
Okay, I have my final answer for you. I've been thinking about it, talking through it out loud. My heart wants him back because he's a great guy and he's a great talent. My head says, don't pay a running back. You can find the talent and give me the O-line and the other weapons that we need. Yep. So that's my final answer. I love the guy.
I think that's a perfect answer. I'm in the same place. The only way I would do otherwise really would be if either A, you can use the franchise tag, or B, you sign him to a deal, but with the guaranteed money, the average and what you're paying doesn't really, it hits your cap actually even less than the even the cap hit for this coming year, and you can get out of it is less than even the franchise tag. I'm with you. I think if you have a terrific offensive line, a lot of running backs can be successul. So absolutely,
I 100% agree. And the Giants have other guys they have to pay. Like you got to wrap up Dexter Lawrence. That guy can't go anywhere.
Yep.
You got some guys in the secondary that have some contracts coming up, so it's going to be hard to pay your own.
You don't have a number 2 cornerback, whether that's the draft or free agency. Moroza free agent. You need a number 2 corner. They have no linebackers, none.
No.
It's the worst. That's probably the most embarrassing position group. They don't have depth at pass rusher. As you said, there's Julian Love, safety is free agency there. So there's all kinds of holes all over that defense. The offensive line needs to be interior offensive line needs an upgrade, and there's no wide receivers and no pass catching, playmaking tight ends. But other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how'd you like to play?
Other than that, we're in great shape.
Yeah.
But that's a big point for the section of the Giants fan base that does not want to pay Daniel Jones anything, is that this roster has holes everywhere, as you just mentioned. So wait till the roster is ready, then go get your quarterback or draft your quarterback in a year or two, and then enjoy the rookie contract, and you could pay for that elite wide receiver if you want because you got the space.
Yeah, so this is where the so if you have 4 different characters, this is where, after I've made this cogent argument, this is where the Daniel Jones apologist in me then kicks in, where I then sit there and think, on the other hand, I know this is a rebuild, but I think the coaching staff is sort of almost too good that the Giants are not going to end up with that top 5 draft pick to go get a quarterback. And if you can't do that, then I don't know. There is something kind of fun about trying to compete while you build the thing and at least be respectable while every year, the Cowboys have shown now they're not well coached and don't fulfill their promise, but they certainly have shown that you don't have to be in the top 5 or 10 in the draft to continue to draft a lot of terrific talent. And so I'd love to see Schoen do his job. I'd like to see them bring back Daniel Jones and at least be a team that can compete for a playoff spot while we're looking at what has to be a 4 or 5 year rebuild. We're 1 year in.
I agree with you in terms of culture, in terms of attracting free agents down the line. Teams like guys that maybe have a couple of years left, they want to go to a contender. They want to go where it matters. And if you're in a constant state of rebuild, you're never going to attract those guys. And now we finally have the right coach. And the way the guys rally around DJ and Saquon, I would love to run it back and keep building on what we just did, because you look at the AFC, that's where all the elite quarterbacks are.
Yep.
We happen to be in a very good division, but when you get outside of that, you can grab a wild card every year and make your shot and go on a run. You never know what could happen. There's
nobody in the South. I mean, unless Derek Carr goes someplace there's no quarterbacks in the South. Who knows what Aaron Rodgers does? The Lions are ascending, but you're absolutely right, is that the AFC is brutal and packed with young quarterbacks, and the NFC, the Eagles are a very good team, but there is really, obviously right now the AFC is where it's at in terms of the best teams in the league. El Jefé, Jeff Pilgrim, it's been a pleasure. People should be following you on YouTube, on Twitter, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you so much, Lori. Great talking with you.